everyone. Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Business Basics. My name is Lee Iben. I'm the head business coach here at Action Coach Campus. And my special guests today are Isabella and Lorraine with Cafe Dodici in Washington, right there on the corner, a quaint little Italian restaurant, and you also have a boutique next door. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Well, welcome both of you. Tell us about Cafe Dodici, how it got started, why it got started. What's the story?
I'll begin with that because, as most people know, I left when I was 19, my hometown of Washington, Iowa, and I moved to Italy, and I ended up staying for 30 years. Wow. I am an Italian citizen, and my beautiful daughter, Isabella, was born there in Cattolica. So I never really thought I would ever move back to the United States. I didn't really know what I would do here. My life and my home were there. And then, but I was director of sales for a company, and I would go to every little town, big town in Italy, and I would think, wow, you know, the downtown in Italy is still is golden, right? That's where everybody goes to hang out. Mm-hmm. Whether or not they're going to buy something or go to a store, they still go to the downtown square. So I thought if I ever went back to the States, I'd go back to my hometown and I would fix that place up, because in the 70s when I was a young girl, it was pretty rocking. We were a county seat and we attracted people from all over. So lots of businesses, lots of people on the square. And that to me is what community is all about. It's that hanging out together. And I think that's all what we miss right now in our lives is hanging out together.
It certainly is. I mean, too many Zoom calls for everybody, right, Lorraine?
No kidding.
Yeah. So you came back 16 years ago-ish, right?
Probably 17, yeah. I came back with my Italian husband, and he decided to immigrate back here with me.
Okay.
And I thought, well, what are we going to do? And then I thought, oh my gosh, I've been dreaming about this a whole lifetime. I know what I'm going to do, but how am I going to do it? And my thought was, I'd eaten out all over the world. I've been an avid traveler, and I was in the nutrition field in Italy. So I thought, food is what life is about, enjoying it and how it makes you feel after you eat it and how it makes you feel tomorrow, so you can get up and do this all over again. And it's a great place to, when I traveled Italy, I was director of sales, so I would go to many different towns all the time. And I could walk into a restaurant after 8 months and they would say, "Oh, signora, how have you been?" And I had long blonde hair. I kind of stuck out, but that's not the point. That's how they did with everybody. The owner's there, they're living their lives, they're doing their business. And I wanted that experience for my community where somebody cared what was going on with them. And when they celebrated something, I wanted to do that with them. So that's how the whole idea of a restaurant would be the perfect idea to have people come to town. And then I read books about opening your own restaurant, and there wasn't a kind word to be said. They all said, it's a great idea. That's cute, adorable. Just don't do it, because there's no money in this business and it's hard and you make it work. And I thought, oh, come on. There's restaurants everywhere. Of course this can work. And I just ignored them and I did it anyway. So there you go.
Well, and I'm glad you did. And as a patron of Cafe Dodici, and my wife and I tend to eat out an awful lot, and we eat out when we travel quite a bit. And the atmosphere that you have is similar to an atmosphere of a restaurant owner in maybe a large metropolis like a New York or Chicago, where it is more than a livelihood, it is a way of life. Is the feeling I get. When you go to college towns, we'll leave it at that. When we go to college towns, you get a lot of students who are working at the restaurant for a job. It's just, an hourly wage kind of a thing. But they don't have that sense of pride that you and your family have with Cafe Dodici. Is that a fair statement?
That is so true, right? I mean, the people who work for us, my kitchen staff have been there 16 years.
That's amazing.
My servers, 3-4 years. Of course, Isabella, ever since she came back, has been with us. So it's a place, it's a family. We all hang out together and do things together. And go ahead, Isa, you have little thoughts on that?
Yeah, family business. Everyone's really invested in it, working out.
Yeah, it's not a part-time job. It's not something you're doing in Washington, Iowa to get through till you can get in a better job. This is your job.
Right,
And
right. And it's a good thing. It really is. The way that you just carry yourself as a restaurant owner or a business owner, especially like in a town like Washington, you really have a sense as the customer that the owner truly cares about your experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if I have to come in too late, or I can't be there because I'm in a board meeting, or I have something else going on, it really, and then they'll say, "Oh, Mom, you know who came tonight? So-and-so came from Iowa City." And and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I miss them. I really hate that."
Right.
And now I think the worst thing of COVID is I miss my people. I worry
Mhm.
about certain people. I understand why they're not coming, but how are they doing? I
Right.
almost wish they would just call me up and let me know so I could relax.
Yes, exactly. So before we jump into that, because I do want to know how COVID has impacted the restaurant business, but you also have the boutique on the side. How did that all come about?
So
Yeah.
go ahead.
Well, you
So
started.
the restaurant was my idea. All the art in there and the chandeliers and everything I brought from someplace else on the planet. And I really, really, really love that kind of dining where I sit down and take my time. As a director of sales in Italy, again, for 3 hours, you can have lunch. So
Right.
you make that last. And but then I realized after we opened that for my local public, that's good, but it's not what they needed entirely. They needed something else. They needed something
Okay.
where they could grab it and go back to work. They have 30 minutes. They're in a hurry. What
Yep.
can I do to make that next step? So the building beside me was for sale. And so I was thinking, oh, a great coffee shop, a place to hang out. I'm really into the third place where people gather. And of course I do everything like that with that impassioned excitement. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to put things in that store. I have to sell things now. So I'm always blessed to have wonderful people like my daughter and many other people who take that on, who help me with those pieces of the puzzle that I haven't figured out yet.
Yeah.
So the coffee shop was just another balance to what Washington needs: a fine dining and an everyday place to go for your coffee and quick lunch.
Right. And it's a great fit. But that is so Italian, isn't it? To eat for 3 hours, to feel like you can just sit there and just, it's something that I think that we have lost here in the United States. And I say that because my daughter and her husband and my 3 grandkids all live in England. I don't think they're ever coming back home to the States. Maybe they will someday, but it gives us a good excuse to travel there to see them. But dining is an experience. It's not a quick grab and go, get out of here. And when you go to Cafe Dodici, you just don't feel rushed at all.
It's not about turning tables, that's for sure, in our restaurants. Right. It is about taking that time. I mean, my favorite little cartoon is a mother and her children are walking down the street and she's on the phone and they're all eating something and she says to the person on the phone, "I can't talk right now, we're having supper." So, people, they need to sit down, their stomach, their whole energy needs to bless that food, to like nourish your body. That's what we're doing here. So yeah, to me, sitting down and enjoying it, taking your time is definitely the best thing we can do for our health.
Now, we certainly have people who hang out for a long time in the coffee shop. There are people who use it as their office even. They'll be there, come for coffee and then work on their computer all day and have lunch, take a break for lunch and stay a few more hours.
And you're okay with that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so Isabella, you came into this. Well, you were born into the business, but how has that gone for you? You're second generation coming into this, and so how is that transition happening for you?
Well, it was helpful because we actually opened my senior year of high school, and I started as a server in high school, and then it kind of got me through college to pay for my living expenses. And then my interests were different. So I majored in international studies and moved to the East Coast and worked in that field for a couple of years, long enough to realize that's not what I wanted to do. So then I decided to move back home, and it was really, it just worked out where the coffee shop really needed some leadership. And so I took over, and I love it. It's a much more dynamic kind of job than sitting in an office. Not that, nothing wrong with that, but it's just not for me. So I really enjoyed that atmosphere and just kind of we also had so much more potential, because what we haven't covered yet is there's a third side to our business, which is our overnight suite. It's called the Dodici night suite. So on the second floor of both buildings, we have one is a full-on apartment, and the other three are more, or one's a small apartment, and the other two are kind of more like hotel rooms with no kitchen, with bedrooms. And we started, when I moved back, we just had the one apartment that we would rent out overnight. So I helped, look for grants. We got several, totaling probably close to $90,000 to renovate those second floors and create those 3 more suites, which now we wish we had 4 more. So those have been going really well.
That's good. So they're staying rented out. I mean, people are they travelers, or who's your primary customer that stays with you?
We have quite a few that are people who work in town but don't live here, type of thing. Like they come Monday through Friday, or maybe they're consulting. So for a few months, they're here for several days a week, type of thing. So we have a lot of those, but a lot of family members visiting people who live here. And there are even some tourists. I mean, just
people come to stay overnight in the restaurant, and maybe for an anniversary, they have dinner, and then they can just go upstairs. So we have a lot of sort of vacationers, right, in Washington, Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. That's really great. And Washington is such a nice town. I wanted to say eclectic, maybe a little eclectic, but it's what you think of as a quaint small town with a town square, right? It has a 1950s feel to it, but it's definitely 2020 through and through.
I do think we need to note that the community, since we opened our restaurant, has invested collectively between private grants, city improvements, about $25 million. So amazing. In 4 square blocks, they really took it up upon themselves to make it a place that you want to come and see, to understand that our eyes need beauty. They need to see lovely things. And so it's been the cherry on top of the cake.
It really has. It's great. And you grew up there, right, Lorraine? That was your hometown.
I graduated from high school here. I mean, I came in 4th grade. We were from Wellman. And my dad taught here, and I have great memories of being here.
Oh, that's great. So then Santa Claus in town. So
Oh yeah. We're lucky to get Santa. That's true.
I think we all know Santa Claus and his lovely wife. Hey, so tell me, COVID-19 threw everybody for a loop. How did it affect you guys?
Well, we did close for a couple months because it was too scary, really. We didn't know. At the beginning, it just threw everyone for a loop. So we started with just takeout, Well, of course, we had to be closed for dine-in, and it was just too stressful, right? Yeah.
We hadn't done that. Our restaurant isn't a takeout kind of place in general. I mean, people do, but every single meal, we weren't set up for it. It was very crazy, and everyone was fearful. And so we just decided to give everyone a break, and we did close for a short time.
So that was a couple month break, but then we decided, okay, we can't be closed forever, so we just have to learn to move on. We are in the restaurant business, so we got to keep doing this. And so we opened back up for a couple weeks, let's say, of carry out only, I think it was. And then we kind of got that more down to an art. So now what's still sustaining us in part is the carry out. People who miss our food, want to support us, but aren't comfortable eating out. And the coffee shop really went right back to where it was, if not busier, the moment we opened. I think people were really feeling like they needed that to get back to some sort of routine, getting out. So even though almost nobody wears a mask who comes in, at least they come in, and we appreciate that.
Well, it's hard to eat dinner or drink coffee with a mask on. So.
Right. Yeah.
And then the city council was stellar at the time. I asked to have more outdoor seating without everything enclosed and everything sort of the way it had been. And they immediately said yes. So we have lots of outdoor seating, which really helps people feel comfortable.
And we already had a patio, but we added to it quite a bit, and it is packed. There are times where we've had to turn people away, I think, at least as far as sitting outside, or bring tables from inside and add them outside. So, yeah.
Sure. It's a wonderful thing to be able to add that on, and hopefully by the time when the weather gets cooler, we have this COVID thing maybe more under control. But you touched on something that quite a few restaurants especially weren't able to weather the storm of COVID-19, and yet you did, and you're back. What's your secret as a business owner? You've done this for 16 years in this space with Cafe Dodici. What has been your business philosophy so that you can weather these storms? Now, we didn't predict COVID-19, obviously, but we have to have a little bit in reserves to weather things, right?
Mm-hmm. We also opened a few years before the big crash in 2008-9. So
and we got through that.
Yeah. I have to say right off the bat, we should mention we did get the PPP and a couple of grants, so that really helped.
Oh, a lot. Very important. Very. I mean, crucial. That saved us, actually. No question about it. Yeah, and the fact that we've diversified. We have the 3 different businesses, so maybe the suites are busier and the restaurant's a little slower, or the coffee shop picks up. So it gives us some area to work in.
If we had just the restaurant or just the coffee shop or just the suites, that would
have been a big difference.
Yeah, the 3 kind of support each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I just had one of those moments. The whole people tell me all the time that they came back. This is the first restaurant they came back to. They haven't been out to eat since this whole thing started. This is their first night out, and they came here because they trust us. Yeah. We did some videos at the beginning letting people know. We take people's temperatures, how we disinfect. We have a great machine with a dry mist that we take throughout the restaurant and outside, and in the suites that disinfect. They just trust us, and they know that everything's really spaced out.
Our staff always wear masks, and we were doing these videos and telling people about what we were doing back when nobody really knew what was going on, and we're all kind of, what do we do here? We're saying we're wearing masks, we're wiping things down, and we're still doing that today. People are seeing that happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you have to, and you're right. There is a trusting quality that's inherent with a smaller community like Washington, but that's our success. That's what we're known for, and to some degree, I think our customers expect it, but we're going to give it anyway because that's just the way that we roll, right? I just
and I'm there every day. I don't want to get sick. I want to do everything we can do to keep everybody well. I mean, that's our goal.
So other than diversification, what's the bit of business knowledge that you've especially learned, Lorraine and Isabella, you're picking up from mom, that you could pass on to somebody else who's thinking about getting into business and they're like, oh my word, I can't think about it now with COVID-19, right? Well, you and I, we all know that there's always something around the corner, but what's that advice you got for them, Lorraine?
Wow.
I know it's tough. Our situation's different even than with Iowa City, for example. I think because we're such a small town,
right?
That it's that personability, that knowing people. I know almost everyone who comes in to the coffee shop. Hundreds of people in a day, maybe, and I know everybody. I remember what they like to drink. That we ask how their wife's doing. And that which you may not be able to. Maybe in Iowa City, even in your neighborhood coffee shop, but. I think that's crucial. And in fact, the hardest thing with hiring a new person is that the customers don't know them yet and vice versa. So there's a little bit of, wait a minute, the person doesn't know what I like to drink or what my favorite dessert is here.
Right.
And
the success, I have been actually criticized for my whole business plan because the idea that the business needs us is what everybody thinks. You get a business, you get it started, and you sell it. My suggestion would be, get a business and enjoy yourself because it's yours. It's your creation. It's your thing. Yeah, people come there to see Lorraine. That's, and I'm not 100% there. I mean, I do go on vacation occasionally, not anymore, but I used to. And I have a night where I have something else I can't be there for. Maybe I do a catering. People live through that. But I love that it's an intimacy that we have with the people that we serve. And again, it's that family sort of growing, caring about each other. Just don't be afraid to love your customers and don't be afraid to give a little bit more of yourself. And, you know, the whole idea of starting a business, in my opinion, is not to sell it and make a bunch of money. It's to live my life.
Other people run it. I mean, if you look at our downtown square, you know, the floral shop, the owner is there all the time.
Right.
I mean, she has employees, but she's usually there. You know, you go to the clothing store, Jazz It Up, and Amy will be there generally when you go in. And the village, you know, June and Char are usually there, and it's that going there, and so who owns it is there, and they know who you are. That really works for a small town.
And isn't that cool? I mean, who can say that, right? That's great. No, it really is.
It's fun. It makes life, you know, and that's what we're doing. We didn't think, oh, let's start this business and sell it later and make a bunch of money and then go someplace else. This is where I live. This is what I want to do. So
right. When my wife and I, we had a dental practice and we put our heart and soul into it. And it was, you know, Dr. Polly Iben was she was our pediatric dentist. I was her business manager, and we put our lifeblood into that business because you have to, you should, right? Mm-hmm. But you're right. I think, but you nailed it though, is that we want to have business to have fun. We want to enjoy what we do. So what is your inspiration that gets you out of bed every morning? What is that thing that inspires you the most?
I thought about this earlier. So I saw this quote today, and it really spoke to me, which is somebody posted on Facebook, I think. You're so busy doubting yourself while so many others are intimidated by your potential. So it's kind of get out of your own way. You know,
yes.
Don't worry about, oh, well, can I do this or not, when everybody else just thinks you're rocking it, you know, or they're, so just do it, basically.
Right.
If I could, it's the Nike slogan when I think of my mom is just do it. You know, she hadn't ever run a restaurant before, but that was her dream, so she just did it, you know.
Yep.
And I've been blessed with a father who was a motivational man from the get-go. He was a school teacher, and when he passed away, I found all these little notes of his, you know, things he would go to do a talk, and he would just have little pieces of paper. But he would go up to people and he would say, "You are somebody and you are important." And it just gives me goosebumps even now to think of it, because that's how he raised me, is that you want to be president? You go, girl. You got this, you know?
That's great.
So it's that what gets me up in the morning is, I mean, I love what I do. I love the people I encounter, and I want to make a difference. In fact, the quote at the bottom of my email is Gandhi's, where it says, you know, be the difference. Just do that already.
Right.
You know, be the change. So Washington is my place to make change and to have fun.
Bloom where you're planted, right?
Right, exactly.
Also, yes.
Yeah, that is fantastic. Well, thank you both for doing this with me today. Don't go away. I'm gonna wrap things up here real quick for this segment of Business Basics. Thank you all for watching today. This has been an episode of Business Basics, and our guests today have been Isabella and Lorraine with Cafe Dodici right on the square in Washington, Iowa. If you get a chance, and do make the chance to get to Washington and have dinner, and if it's during the day and they can't have dinner yet, get a coffee. By all means, get a coffee, because it's I've had both many times, and I will go back again probably tonight when my wife gets home. So thank you all for watching Business Basics. What? Say that again, please.
We're closed on Monday and Tuesdays, so
that's all right. We'll make it tomorrow then. That's just fine. That's perfect. Well, don't go away, and thank you all for watching Business Basics.